Hey, Emil Kadlec here for the line of scrimmage, the football Diehards, DFS cash game show. Of course, we do GPP too. And we're here with the scholar, John Laub. John, how is your Saturday week 8?
Well, other than Michigan losing, I've had a very good day. I watched that whole game. What a good football game. I'll give Michigan State credit. They came through. They won the game. But other than that, I've been researching, studying. And Emil, we are on a little bit of a hot streak on this show. If you've been with us for the last, all season long, our final segment is GPP, Contrarian Stack. For 3 weeks in a row, Emil, we have hit the total home run. In week 5, we suggested Browns at Chargers. Everyone knows how that one blew up completely. In week 6, we did Vikings versus Panthers. That one blew up with Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. And last week, our viewers were probably asking, what is Laub talking about? We suggested the Falcons and the Dolphins. And we had Tua, Patterson, Ridley, Waddle, and Gesicki. Completely blew up that lineup with the right players around it with very low ownership. So, Emil, I've been working hard, grinding this week. We got another GPP. Stay with us till the end of the show, everyone, and hopefully we'll hit it again. We've actually now done it, Emil. 4 out of 7 weeks, our GPP Contrarian Stack has come through.
Yeah, I tell you what, a contrarian stack over 50%. That's incredible. It really is, and congratulations on that one.
I think we have another one, so let's go. But I'm always going to... Yeah. Hey, we're here for the viewers. We're working hard for it, so hopefully we got another one for you, but thank you.
All right, here's the first slide.
All of our viewers know we're really here for cash games. That is more of my specialty. Do I love GPP? For the total chance at the lottery ticket? Of course, I think we all do, right? But we're really here to work the cash game lineups. And the first player in the cash game lineup, Emil, if you're looking for a sleeper, Teddy Bridgewater is 5% owned right now. He's only 5,400. 5,400,
wow.
Emil. That is at home against the Washington defense that I have stacked against, played receivers against, quarterbacks against all season long. Washington secondary is not very good. And last night, I think Chase Young had 0 or 1 sack. It's still one of the most amazing. I thought Chase Young would be a star, still a great player. But to have 0, or he might have gotten 1 sack last week, I forget. I know he had 0 sacks entering the game. So Denver's at home in a tough spot. Their offense is not the problem. Their defense right now, Emil, is a wreck.
That's weird.
The last 3 games, Teddy, 15 points, 25, and 19 points. Teddy Bridgewater has a 12-5 touchdown to interception ratio. 1,700 yards passing. He's only 5,400, so all we need, Emil, is 15 points for him to get 3 times value.
And he's probably been averaging over that amount.
Yes, and look at this, Emil. He's actually averaging 17.6. You're correct. And in the last 3 games, he's thrown 2, 3, and 2 touchdown passes. This is a much better spot for Teddy against the Washington secondary. If you're looking to do like a Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, if you want those expensive players, you're going to have to pivot at the quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater gives you a lot of salary savings, and he should easily hit 3 times value. I love him here. I was shocked, Emil. I liked Elijah Mitchell all week because of the matchup, especially after watching him against Indianapolis in the rain. Whoa, 107 yards and a touchdown. He the classic Kyle Shanahan / Mike Shanahan running game is right now taking place in San Francisco. They're against the Bears, and I believe the Bears have lost 2 of their front 7 are not going to play this week. So the Bears have problems up front. They have not been very good against the run recently. And then I looked at Emil. He's only on 5%.
Ooh.
And I said, why? I said to myself, why is that? And I realized DraftKings is PPR oriented. So most of our viewers and most of the players are always looking for running backs with receptions, which I do also. But last week in this same segment, Emil, we recommended Damien Harris of the Patriots. And Damien Harris doesn't get a lot of catches either. But the matchup against the Jets was so enticing. I love Damien Harris in that. The same, to me, is occurring right now with Elijah Mitchell. He could easily get 2 touchdowns in this game. Last week, he scored 19.7 with 1 touchdown. He's a Shanahan back against the Bears, and they don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the football, Emil. They are trying to keep him at all costs from throwing the football. Yeah, he'll throw it to Deebo Samuel once in a while. But I think Elijah Mitchell will set a career high. The 3 games that he's really played in, 19 carries versus Detroit, 17 against the Eagles, 18 last week against the Colts. I think he sets a career high here. I think he gets over 20 carries. I know he's going to get in the end zone once. He might get in the end zone twice. 5% owned, Emil, for a running back in a Shanahan system who's playing good football. I love him here for 5,400. Give me Elijah Mitchell. Hey, I heard the same complaints about Damien Harris last week. Loved Damien Harris last week, and he hit the home run. Yes. I think it's similar with Elijah Mitchell. Look, I like PPR pass-catching backs also, but touchdowns are awesome, and you have to sometimes forecast the possibility of a running back getting multiple touchdowns. I think Mitchell's in that kind of spot right now. The other player that jumped out, I know the Lions are winless, but I give Dan Campbell credit. This team is not giving up. What a great first half they had against the Rams.
Yeah,
and they gave the Rams, they did. They gave the Rams everything possible. And Dan Campbell did everything to win that game. It just didn't turn out. But the Lions
had the Rams shitting bricks.
They did, my friend. They definitely did.
They were worried.
They were. But the Lions at the end of the day in the secondary are not very good. They're just not good. And they don't have a dominant pass rush. Devonta Smith is being overlooked. And I know we have Jamar Chase, and everyone's talking about Jamar Chase. And granted, he is worth all of the praise. But Devonta Smith is on pace. He might have over 1,000 yards by the end of this year. The missing ingredient is he's not getting in the end zone. And we know touchdowns can be fickle. And it's interesting because at Alabama, he was a touchdown machine. So it's not like he's incapable. It's kind of just how the offense is kind of running right now. Part of it's Jalen Hurts also. But in the last 4 games, Devonta Smith has had 9, 4, 9, and 10 targets. Devonta Smith is getting the workload and the opportunities that we like as fantasy owners. He just hasn't done a ton with those opportunities. Now, if you look at his box scores against Kansas City, he scored 22. He scored 16 against Carolina. And if you go all the way back to week 1 against Atlanta, he scored 19. Last week, he scored 11 against Las Vegas. I think the Eagles are going to be successful in the air right this week against Detroit. Devonta Smith is less than 10% owned. The upside is there. He could easily have a 20-point day. I think we have a really nice floor for 5,500 of about 12 points. So we have a range of outcomes, in my opinion, from 12 to 20 points. I like Devonta Smith here. If we get in the end zone, we're going to get the 20 points, in my opinion. So I like Devonta Smith against Detroit. And I have to admit, this is not mine. I read our website. I love the football diehards. And I got to give credit to Bob Harris here for pointing out James Agnew. He was in his column this week. And then I decided, wow, Jamal Agnew, I got to look this. If Bob wrote about him, I've got to look him up. Great background story. He didn't even start playing wide receiver till COVID happened. The stories, the narrative is that he taught himself how to play wide receiver. He's not a he's not a natural wide receiver. And then I said, wow, let me look at the numbers. Let me get the game log. 7 targets 2 weeks ago against Tennessee. 6 targets last week against Miami. 13 targets, and he has 11 receptions. He has scored 12.8 and 10.9. So Bob identified him on our website. I looked him up. He's less than 1% projection. He's only 3,700. The Seahawks are bleeding points in the secondary. They're terrible against the pass. Jamal Agnew, if you're looking for one cheap play, I like him for 3,700. What do you think, Emil?
Yeah, very intriguing one. By the way, he is now at 2.5% owned, so he's sneaking up a bit. Surprise, surprise. I mean, you're going to get a little of action there. But yeah, that's an excellent lineup there. And I did throw it in our optimizer, and it fit nicely. The first lineup I got included Henry, T. Higgins, Dallas Goedert, and Eckler, and the Buffalo defense. So that still fits a lot of pretty good money there. Still leaves you some serious players.
And I actually did a lot. I like to play around with lineups. It's one of the things I like to do. You can have a lineup here with Henry and Cooper Kupp if you work the other players in the defense. So you could go high end with these type of value plays.
Yeah, I was thinking of somebody else. Just let me see if I forgot who it was. I'll think of it later. Darn it. I'll bring it up on our next segment here. But I had somebody else in mind. His salary was more than... Well, anyway, I'll bring it up in a minute. All right, so let's see. What's next? Are we going with the Fantastic Four?
Yes, we pivot to the Fantastic Four.
There we are.
Now, the sleepers give you an opportunity to find value. And you could plug in all 4 and go high-end starters, or you can use 1 or 2 sleepers and choose not all 4. But what I do like to do, and Emil and this is our second year, week number 8, we like to give you a Fantastic Four to build a very strong cash game lineup. And this week, I'm going to start my cash game with Carson Wentz. Emil, I love this spot. I'm going to bet against Tennessee's defense until they prove to me that they can stop anyone. I mean, the Titans are just fantasy gold because you have Derrick Henry on one side. I do like Tannehill, even though he's not playing as well as we had hoped. They got A.J. Brown over there. They score points. and their defense is terrible. I mean, that's just fantasy gold, Emil. We have Carson Wentz. I believe we talked about him either last week or 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very quietly is having a very nice season. Maybe it was the injuries in the preseason. Maybe it was just how the way his career in Philadelphia ended. But there was so much negativity around Wentz, I think he's being ignored in fantasy circles. My favorite stat that I love at college level or the NFL, touchdown to interception ratio. Carson Wentz has 11 touchdowns and only 1 interception. That's amazing.
Pretty darn good.
Means he's being very smart with the football, not turning it over, and he's efficient with the touchdowns. And in the last 3 games, Carson Wentz has produced 21.3, 17, and 26.5 DraftKings points. He's been very good, but his salary isn't going anywhere, Emil.
Oh, very good.
Last week, this is mind-blowing to me. His salary was $6,000 against the 49ers. It came down in value, and he's got a better matchup. He's at home with no rain against the worst defense. And now that we have, he's got Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. He's got, if T.Y. Hilton gets on the field, but I don't. It's questionable. I don't expect him to play. You also have Zach Pascal. He's got a great offensive line. I don't understand why people are ignoring Carson Wentz, but when I can get a starting quarterback, and I believe the over-under here is the highest on the board.
Ooh.
Let me just double-check for 1 second here. Yes, Titans-Colts are 51. So we have Vegas telling us it's the highest over-under on this slate. I have a quarterback at home who's playing great football, and I have no weather concerns. Love Carson Wentz here. Emil, I don't know what DeAndre Swift has to do to become an $8,000 running back, but until he becomes an $8,000 running back, I'm going to start him. He's 15% owned here. He's only $7,100. I cashed last week because of DeAndre Swift. Scored 28.4 points.
Wow.
For one of the lineups on footballdiehards.com, I had Swift. I had the quarterback for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, and I had Chris Godwin. And I cashed big time on that lineup.
Wow.
DeAndre Swift in the last 3 games, 28, 17, and 22 DraftKings points. Emil, in 4 of 7 weeks, DeAndre Swift has gone over 23 fantasy points.
That is nice.
4 of 7. You know why? He's the goal line back. He's the pass catching back. He's the home run back. And he's the best player on the football team. I mean, he's great. And I do believe...
He doesn't necessarily start the game. That's even funnier.
No. Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, DeAndre Swift gets his touches here. He's averaging 19.6 points per game, and he's playing the Eagles. Even if he only has 12 carries, he might get 7 or 8 receptions this game. The Eagles are terrible against opposing running backs in the backfield. Absolutely love him here. So I'm going to put in our Fantastic Four, DeAndre Swift. I'm going to come back. I really like this Colts-Titans game. A.J. Brown. How good did he look last week? 30 point. Oh, my God. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 133 yards, and a touchdown. The week before, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards. He has scored 46 DraftKings points in the last 2 weeks. I love the projection of this game. I don't think the Colts have a secondary member who can cover A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
They get burnt on the perimeter. The Colts cannot defend the perimeter. Where does A.J. Brown excel? Outside on the perimeter. Outside the hash
Bingo.
mark. I do not see. I love the shootout potential. I also like the pivot because Derrick Henry's so expensive, and I have a lineup with Derrick Henry on footballdiehards.com now. But I also like the pivot from Henry to A.J. Brown. And I love this kind of nice shootout with Carson Wentz and Ryan Tannehill. So I'm going to take A.J. Brown here, 12% ownership right now, as my wide receiver. And I was so pumped. I've been going back, Emil. I've been reading everything about Jerry Judy all week. He hasn't played since week 1 against the Giants. Basically, in one half of football, he had 7 targets, 6 receptions for 72 yards. He has not seen the field since. He was supposed to play. Then Friday, Fangio gave him a day off, which I understand. But they activated him today. The latest news is they activated Jerry Judy. I don't see why the Broncos would activate Jerry Judy on the roster and then not play him, right?
Correct.
It doesn't make any sense. So I believe Judy plays tomorrow. We're going to watch it. Listen to SiriusXM with our Football Diehards teammate and Hall of Famer Bob Harris. But I believe Jerry Judy's going to play. I would say it's an 85% chance or more. I'm going to be watching it all morning. I can make a different lineup at the last second if he doesn't. But I'm pretty sure, I'm confident. Love him in this matchup against the Washington secondary. He's only 4,900. So that's my Fantastic Four. Wentz, Swift, Brown, and Judy. Emil, were you able to plug them into the optimizer?
Yes, I did. Let's take a quick look here. Again, we have Henry. The first lineup I get, it has Henry. It has Hollins for Miami.
I kind of like. He's a sneaky guy.
The 3K, so it's that's kind of your weak link there. And it has Arnold at tight end for Jacksonville, and it has Eckler as your flex, and Chicago as your defense. That's the first lineup, so fits in pretty nicely.
Yeah, this lineup, when I designed this lineup, I considered that this is a nice lineup to put either Henry or Cooper Kupp. You can decide which way you want to go. But those are the 2 pricey players. Mm-hmm. And I think with this lineup, you could put one or the other. I don't think you could put both of them in it. But you could choose either to put the Fantastic Four with Kupp or the Fantastic Four with Henry.
Fantastic. All right, here we go. Next slide.
And we have so much on footballdiehards.com to help you build better DFS lineups. Go there right now. We have DraftKings Cash Plays and DFS GPP Stacks by Jamie Calandro. Great article. I look at it every week. We have The Shadow Knows by Gary Davenport, and that's wide receiver cornerback matchups. Check out Gary's article every week if you want to find a sneaky wide receiver who might be undervalued but isn't a good matchup. Then we have the Hall of Famer, Bob Harris. Every week gives us the DFS 3 and out. Those are for GPP plays. Love Bob's article every week. We have Justin Lanero gives us Digging in the Crates daily. If you're looking for more value than just the sleepers that I gave you here tonight, Justin has it for you. And every Sunday morning, watch Emil and I on Saturday night. And then check out DFS Football Die Hard Show on Sundays with Jason and Jamie. They give you up-to-date information every Sunday morning. And, of course, you can go there right now and check out the Scholars Sheet of DraftKings Knowledge. That's my weekly article. And I update it every Sunday morning by about 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Fantastic. All right, let me see if I can't find the last view graph with my 64-year-old eyes. I found it.
All right, excellent. We've been hot. We discussed it in the beginning of the show. We've been hot on our GPP contrarian stack. I thought about this a lot this week, and it really came down to two. Washington at Denver or New England at Los Angeles, the Chargers. I decided, looking deeper into the numbers, looking at ownership, I decided to recommend Washington at Denver. It's a little expensive, but I think this game has some sneaky value. And really, it's because the two defenses are not very good, Emil. Neither defense. Denver's just decimated in the front seven. We saw what happened to them when we last saw them. They played Cleveland, and to Ernest Johnson, what did he run for, 150, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I like the Ernest Johnson, but I mean, please, 150 on the third string running back, your defense has some problems. So I decided I'm going to recommend in a GPP contrarian this week, Washington at Denver. 45 over under. It's not the highest one on the slate, so there is value here. And most viewers, most DFS players are not going to go here. And Denver's a 3-point home favorite. So obviously, I mentioned him in the sleepers. I like Teddy Bridgewater for cash games. I love him in a GPP environment. He's only 5% owned, Emil. 5,400. And what I decided, I had to look at this. I like Jerry Judy very much for cash games because I do think he'll be peppered with targets. But I decided to say, who's got the bigger upside? Who's got the grand slam? If I like Bridgewater, I think the grand slam play is Courtland Sutton. Emil, in 2 of the last 3 games, he has scored over 23 points. Against Pittsburgh, Sutton had 28.
Oof.
Against the Las Vegas, he had 23. Last week on that Thursday night game against Cleveland, he had 12. I was looking at this. Courtland Sutton's numbers, he's got over 500 yards receiving, 38 receptions. He's having a very good year. He's averaging 15.7 yards per reception, Emil.
Whoa.
I mean, sorry, 15.7 fantasy points. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Let's see what he averages per. I screwed up. He's averaging 14.2 per reception. Close enough. So, if I believe Bridgewater is going to be good, is there a chance that Courtland Sutton burns this terrible Washington secondary for a 50-yard touchdown? Yes. I think there's a very good chance that Sutton gets behind this secondary at least once. Hopefully, Bridgewater takes his shot at least twice deep down the field. So I'm going to team Bridgewater up with Sutton. And then I'm looking at tight ends. You have Ricky Seals-Jones and Noah Fant. I believe that Teddy Bridgewater is going to play better than Tyler Heineke. So I said, let me give, we know Judy. We already spoke about him. But I said, I like the upside of Fant at tight end. Fant against the Raiders scored 24.7 points. 16.6 against Baltimore. 13.3 against the Jaguars. And 12.2 against the Giants. When Fant is hot, when they incorporate Fant into the lineup, Noah Fant's very good, and he's only 6% owned. I kind of decided to pivot from Ricky Seals-Jones, who I played each of the last 2 weeks in cash, because he's just been such a good value. But I'm looking for the 25-point upside. What I'm hoping for in this GPP stack is Teddy Bridgewater throws 3 or 4 touchdowns. That's what we're looking for. What does that mean? Sutton's going to have to catch one and Noah Fant's going to have to catch one. I like the odds here. And look at that ownership. Bridgewater, 5%. Sutton, 6%. Fant, 6%. Emil, I'll take that low ownership. And then I said, okay, who am I going to run it back against? Well, I already mentioned Diehards Johnson had over 150. I think this is the first time in weeks that Antonio Gibson doesn't have a injury designation. Not on the injury report. Nothing I've read talks about Antonio Gibson being hurt going into this game. 2 weeks ago against Kansas City, Antonio Gibson was 6,500. Emil, his DraftKings price has fallen down to 5,700.
Nice.
Against one of the worst run defenses in the league. Denver just gave up, as we mentioned, 150 to Diehards Johnson. And Antonio Gibson, didn't he fumble at the goal line against Green Bay? He should have scored, right?
Uh-huh.
He dropped the puck. He fumbled at the goal line. I like him here for 5,700. I'll take the upside on Antonio Gibson. And then to me, no one all week on Twitter, anywhere as I look, any radio show, any podcast, no one is talking about Terry McLaurin. No one. It's like he's invisible this week, Emil.
Interesting.
28.2 against Green Bay last week. 33.3 against Atlanta. 30.7 against the Giants. So we're looking at 3 out of 7 weeks. McLaurin has scored over 28 points.
Wow.
Emil, that's what we want in a GPP. We want high ceiling. Look at that ownership. I'm getting Terry McLaurin at 6% ownership. It's a high risk. It's a contrarian stack. But I believe this game goes over the 45. And why no one is mentioning Terry McLaurin. I mean, I have not listened. And, obviously there's more shows than what I listen to. But let's say I've listened to 8 shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not one show has mentioned Terry McLaurin for a lineup. I love him at 6% ownership.
Beautiful. So I plugged it in the Diehards optimizer, and just looking at the first lineup here. Interesting, this is a funny one. I'm not saying this is good, but it has Eckler in. It has Van Jefferson and a flex for the Rams. It has Buffalo's defense, and it has Jerry Judy.
There you go. The optimizer's going all in.
Yeah, that was lineup 1. I bet Judy's not in a lot of these. I go to the next lineup. We have Eckler, Pittman, Ali Cox, and Buffalo's defense. So there's a bunch of options there. But that was the number 1 lineup it gave us, which I thought a little scary. But that's what it is with GPP.
Yeah, we've discussed it all year, Emil. I am only shooting for the Grand Slam. I want to finish in the top 3%. I don't care if I finish in the 90% or the bottom 10. It does not matter.
Love it. Well, you've been doing great. 4 out of 7 weeks, your contrarian has succeeded, which is phenomenal. And I like this one. I worry about Gibson with his injury, but obviously he's not designated, so that's a good thing.
I'll say this, Emil. All week I was not thinking about Gibson. But, on the Friday, Friday afternoon, they come out with the NFL injury report, and Gibson's not on it. So I said to myself, in a game in which Denver can't stop the run, I'll take Gibson.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, it's a good one. And, he's having a tough time with his injuries, so you want to take it when he's not on the report, and let's hope it goes well on Sunday for him.
Absolutely, my friend.
A guy earlier that I was mentioning, not to get too confused because we're pretty much done now, but it was Michael Carter who got like 9 targets last week in the Jets, minus their starting quarterback, who's a rookie. Now, I think his salary's a little high, but he's a guy to think about, I guess, in cash.
You know, last week, Emil, in my lineup, in the magna cum laude lineup, that cashed for me, scored 151 points. Michael Carter was in that lineup with Matthew Stafford, Chris Godwin, and who else did I? Oh, DeAndre Swift. Michael Carter was in the flex. And I got lucky because he got peppered with Mike White was afraid to throw the ball down the field.
And you never know. That may happen this week. Of course, they got Flacco, who may or may not play this week because he's just basically with the team. But he is familiar with the offense. So, and Carter's at $4,900 and 3% owned. So he's, one of the earlier lineups you had, he probably wouldn't fit in. He may be too expensive. Or there is somebody around the same price that probably has a higher probability. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that name out there.
No, I like that. Hey, I watched him last week, and he got me into the cash, so I was happy about that, my friend.
That's wonderful. All right, sir. Anything else you want to add?
No, just stay tuned all morning. If you love DFS like we do, we have to watch those injury reports. So go to footballdiehards.com Sunday mornings and make sure that your lineup has all healthy players.
Yeah, and of course you got to. On the other one, Jerry Judy, of course, we should play, and that is an afternoon game, a 4 o'clock game. So you're going to be either you need to pivot if you're interested, if that's you need to be thinking about that because it's post the first game. So something to think about.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, have a great week 8. We will talk to you next week.